Hey guys, tonight we step barefoot into the mist-soaked grass of a long-forgotten battlefield in feudal Japan. It's dark, pre-dawn dark, and cold enough that the iron on your forearms bites at your skin. You've slept in a shallow trench beside your companions, all of you pressed together like bundled scrolls under a blanket of dew. Somewhere nearby, a crow calls, rude, impatient. It's going to be a long day. And what's the first thing you have to do, even before rice or tea? That's right, clean your armor. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, where are you listening from, and what time is it there? I always love seeing the global bedtime map light up. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit cross-legged on a flat stone, your legs stiff from yesterday's skirmish. Your Dumaru, your chest armor, is caked with half-dried mud, streaked with someone else's blood, and smells faintly of panic. You roll up the sleeves of your underrobe and reach for the water basin. It's shallow and wide, and the surface reflects your face. Tired, young, slightly terrified. Maybe not your best look, but we're not doing this for glamour shots. Your fingers numb as you dip them in the icy water, then begin to scrub the crimson lacquer of your sodi, those curved shoulder plates that protect you from glancing sword strikes. Bits of battlefield still cling to them. A thorn, a smear, what might be a sliver of fingernail. You don't ask questions. Here's the part modern folks often miss. Armor isn't just about defense. It's about presentation, projection, and discipline. Think of it like arriving at a job interview in a wrinkled t-shirt with blood on your chin. Not exactly leadership material. In samurai culture, the morning cleaning ritual is part sacred, part strategic, and always necessary. You can feel the judgment in the air. That grizzled old Ishigaru across the campfire, he's watching your technique. So is your unit commander. Sloppy cleaning implies sloppy sword work. There's a saying passed from elder to initiate. If you can't polish a plate, you can't parry a blade. Historians still argue whether this obsession with tidiness developed more from battlefield necessity or a deepening warrior aesthetic philosophy in later centuries. But even in the 14th century, you're already being taught that personal order equals martial excellence. The wet cloth circles your chest plate like a clock, round and round. Water darkens the lacquer, beads of red pooling near the grooves. You work quickly, not because you're rushing, but because this is the rhythm. Swipe, rinse, ring. Swipe, rinse, ring. Here's something you wouldn't expect. Samurai armor wasn't all metal. A good deal of it was leather, silk cords, and lacquer wood. Cleaning wasn't about soaking and scrubbing. It was gentle, careful maintenance. You're less a soldier now and more like a medieval pit crew prepping a high-performance war machine. Except the machine is you. And if you screw this up, you probably won't survive the day. As you finish your cleaning, you pause to inspect your kabuto, your helmet. It's domed like a mountain, flanged at the neck, and adorned with a May date. A crest showing your clan symbol. You spit gently on the brow and buff it with your sleeve. Because let's face it, even in war, presentation matters. You're going to walk into combat with hundreds of eyes watching. Enemies, allies, possibly spirits. No pressure. Suddenly a shout. Line up in 10. You're captain. You wince and rub faster. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some warriors added fragrant herbs like yuzu or crushed pine into their rinse water. Not just for scent, but because they believed it warded off bad luck and bugs. Nothing ruins a stoic war face like a mosquito in your helmet. You pull the cleaned armor pieces back onto your shoulders, tie them down with practiced fingers. There's a certain comfort in the weight. Familiar, protective, like a second skin made of lacquer and legend. It's not just armor, it's your identity. The red of your clan's colors, the gold-threaded crest on your sash. Every polish is a statement. I belong. I am ready. I know who I am. And right now, who you are is a well-scrubbed, bleary-eyed warrior about to face another day in a seemingly endless conflict you may not survive. But hey, at least you're clean. You clench your jaw as you hoist your cleaned cuirass into place. It catches the morning light, well, as much light as a cloudy battlefield morning allows, and suddenly you stand a little straighter. There's pride in this armor now. Not because it's indestructible, it isn't, and not because it's comfortable, definitely not, but because it gleams. That gleam? It says everything about you before you even draw your sword. You didn't clean it just to avoid blood rust. You cleaned it because everyone is watching, and in feudal Japan, your social status was worn on your shoulders, chest, and helmet. Samurai weren't just warriors. They were walking resumes. And your armor? It was your LinkedIn profile, your job title, and your family tree all stitched and riveted into one glorious, sweat-soaked ensemble. Let's be clear, not all armor was created equal. If you were born into a lesser family, maybe you're a foot soldier elevated to samurai rank, you might be rocking some hand-me-down gear. Scratched, dented, maybe even patched with mismatched materials. If you don't polish that thing until it shines like polished obsidian, you're going to look like the battlefield janitor instead of a death-dealing nobleman. So you polish. Obsessively. Your helmet crest, that May 8 we mentioned earlier, it's not just decoration, it's a neon billboard. Gold-plated antlers? You're with the Takeda. A curved moon? You're signaling clan loyalty to the Neo. And if yours is crooked or, heaven forbid, missing altogether, might as well show up to a royal banquet in a soggy rice sack. Historians still argue whether all these design cues were primarily about tactical identification or more about psychological warfare. But let's be honest, nothing says, I outrank you, like walking in a battle dressed like a lacquer dragon. And remember that other samurai from earlier? The one eyeing your cleaning technique? Now he's scanning your armor for clues. Are you rich? Important? Have you seen real battle? Or just parade grounds and poetry classes? The reality is brutal. A dirty, unkempt suit of armor makes you look poor and weak. And in a caste-driven society like medieval Japan, the appearance of weakness is an open invitation for someone to make your promotion or your entire existence shorter than a katana blade. Here's something quirky for you. Upper-class samurai sometimes use gold dust mixed into the lacquer of their armor. Not just for flash. It also made the armor shimmer under sunlight or torchlight, creating a literal halo effect around your head during combat. Subtle? Absolutely not. Effective? Very. But even among the glittering elite, clean armor meant more than money. It meant discipline. A warrior who took the time to wash and shine every scale of his kusazuri, the skirt-like plates that hang from your hips, was probably a man who sharpened his sword with the same precision. You don't get to live long around here without habits like that. As you double-check the knots holding your kote, the armored sleeves, to your underrobes, you hear your commander bark orders. You don't flinch, because you're ready, and more importantly, you look ready. That's half the job done. Now, quick detour. Think about modern uniforms. A general in a wrinkle-free dress uniform covered in medals walks into a room. People snap to attention. It's not just respect, It's conditioning. The same rule applied centuries ago in Japan. Clean armor equals competence. Gleaming armor equals leadership. Even the enemy might hesitate. There's a saying whispered across camps before a siege. Don't strike the clean ones first. Why? Because those are often the captains, the champions, the warriors who are waiting to be targeted. You go for the sloppier ones, the ones who forgot to tighten their helmet strap, who didn't finish tying their sash. They're more likely to die quickly. Less effort, fewer surprises. Of course, that's a double-edged sword. If you look too clean, you might just get the attention of every ambitious archer on the field. But still, you take that risk, because status matters. And the cleaning ritual? That's her daily recommitment. Every pass of the cloth, every rethreading of the silk cords, is you saying, I belong in this rank. You remember an old tale passed around the fire, the story of the samurai who showed up for inspection with a smear on his right greave. His lord didn't say a word, just handed him a bamboo stick and told him to clean latrines with it. For 3 weeks, wearing full armor. That kind of lesson doesn't wash off easily. So, here you are, adjusting your gear once more before the morning march, knowing every plate and strap is whispering who you are. To your brothers, to your enemies, and to the history that might one day record your name or forget it. One last detail. Some samurai wore color-coded cords on their armor, not just for clan identity, but to signal achievements. Deep indigo silk, veteran. Vermilion, honors from a past siege. Tidy knots and preserved color showed everyone you were a survivor, and that your victories hadn't dulled your edge. You finish your check. Everything sits right. No scuffs, no stains. The sunlight is finally breaking through the clouds, and your breastplate catches it like a mirror. You feel taller, calmer, ready. You're not just clean, you're composed, which in a society that worships outward calm and inner storm, makes you a walking paradox of lethal beauty. And that's exactly what they expect from a proper samurai. Your horse shifts beneath you as you ride toward the forward encampment, the faint jingle of iron echoing down the mountain trail. You're not the only one who took cleaning seriously this morning. The armor glints all around. Dozens of warriors, each a polished mosaic of plates, cords, and lacquer. From a distance, it looks ceremonial, almost festive. Up close, it reeks. Not of sweat. Not yet. Of something worse. You glance at the man beside you. His due, the chest armor, gleams sure, but something about him is off. Then it hits your nose. A sour, clotted stench. It clings to his backplate like a warning. He didn't clean the inside. And now, he's a problem. See, in feudal warfare, your nose becomes a survival tool. It tells you when food is spoiled, when blood's fresh, and when your comrade has been wearing the same sweat-soaked padding for 3 days straight. You don't say anything yet, but you shift your horse a little farther to the right. Subtle but effective. Because here's the truth no one writes about in the scrolls. Clean armor wasn't just about what others see. It was about what they smell. You smell like death, and you might invite it. Officers would absolutely reprimand soldiers for poor hygiene. Not because they cared about comfort. This is a world where people wipe their faces with rice paper and call it good, but because bad smell implied bad discipline. And in tight formations, that discipline mattered. Imagine trying to hold the line while gagging at the guy beside you. Or worse, imagine attracting flies mid-charge. It's not just gross. It's dangerous. That stench breaks concentration. It invites fatigue. It whispers doubt into the noses of men who need nothing but resolve. Historians still argue whether this emphasis on scent was rooted in genuine military effectiveness or more in symbolic purification rituals. Either way, by the 16th century, commanders were known to walk the lines pre-battle, not just inspecting armor shine, but sniffing. Yes, sniffing. And if you think that's dramatic, let's go weirder. Some samurai sprinkled incense powder inside their armor. Sandalwood, clove, even powdered cherry bark. Not for fashion, for focus. They believed pleasant smells kept the mind alert and reminded them of temple discipline. Quirky detail for tonight. One daimyo, legend says it was Yusuji Kenshin himself, insisted every man in his command pack dried mint leaves to rub on their underclothes before battle. Mint, not to freshen breath, but to purify spirit. Breath was for shouting war cries. Underwear was spiritual real estate. But back to you. You reach the crest of a hill. Below, the battlefield yawns wide. Broken trees, scorched grass. A haze of smoke hangs over the opposing camp. Someone is burning dung to mask the movement of troops, a strategy both clever and eye-watering. You dismount. Your squire, barely 14, races up with a cloth bundle. You already know what's inside. Backup padding, replacement cords, and a tiny clay jar of camellia oil. You dab a bit on a cloth and quickly rub it into the hinge points of your gauntlets. Protection from rust and from that creeping sourness that ruins everything. That gauntlet sheen? It matters. You want to raise your blade later without it looking like it came from a trash heap. You kneel and retie the cords at your thigh. Nearby, 2 officers bark at a young recruit. His armor's clean, but the hem of his kimono peeks from under his kusazuri. Untidy, improper, a signal to anyone watching that his training isn't finished. Maybe his resolve isn't, either. You think back to your mentor's words. Clean armor is clean thinking. Clean thinking survives. Even the enemy knows this. You've seen it before. You ride out to parley. Their champion appears. Spotless, sharp, perfectly put together. It's not just presentation, it's intimidation. That guy's saying, without words, I haven't bled yet. I don't intend to. And on the flip side, a warrior approaches, armor sloppily tied, blood dried and crusted in the gaps, maybe a strap dangling. You don't see ferocity. You see desperation. You see someone who might not care if they live, or someone too tired to try. And tired people die fast. As you rise, a standard bearer jogs past. His robes swirl clean and red around his legs, the sash crisp, the family crest on his back ironed into perfection. You don't know his name, but you trust him, because he looks like someone you can trust. Armor becomes a second language. Not just words, but grammar, punctuation, clean edges and straight lines say, I belong. I will not falter. Rust and stink and slouchy straps say, I probably forgot my lines, and also I might die in the first 5 minutes. You march now, slowly, the rows forming. You catch the glint of your reflection in another warrior's greaves. Just a blur, but enough to remind you of who you are, where you've been. That you survived yesterday and might again today. And yeah, your armor's clean. It smells like cedar oil and soap root. It reflects the sun like water. It squeaks faintly when you move. But more than all that, it tells everyone that you're here, that you're alive, and that even if today's your last, you'll meet it spotless. Because if they must carry your body home, let them see a warrior who fought clean. You kneel beside the riverbank, helmet under one arm, a coarse cloth in your hand, and every movement as deliberate as a calligraphy stroke. The water is cold, flowing slow and thick from last night's rain, curling mist over smooth stones and half-submerged roots. Birds chirp softly in the canopy, indifferent to your presence, as if you're not here to fight, but to pray. And maybe, in some way, you are. You wet the cloth, squeeze it out, and begin gently wiping the crimson lacquered plates of your armor. This isn't just cleaning anymore, it's communion, a quiet ritual passed down from your father and his father before him. You've done 100 times, but this morning it feels different. You whisper softly, not to yourself, but to the armor. "Thank you," you say under your breath. You're not talking steel and leather, not exactly. You're talking to the soul you believe lives inside it. That's right. Your armor isn't just gear, it's sacred. And the lacquer? That shimmering, hardened coat that protects wood and leather beneath? It's where the spirits live. At least, that's what you've been taught. The old monks say each layer of lacquer seals in not just protection, but intention. That every application of urushi, the traditional sap used to create lacquer, is like a prayer hardened into form. One layer at a time, applied over weeks, sometimes months, in silence, with purpose. Historians still argue whether samurai really believed the armor was alive, or if it was symbolic shorthand for personal honor. But walk a mile in it, clean it every morning, bow to it before battle, and you'll start to feel it too. That quiet pulse beneath the plates, that awareness. You pause to trace the faint lines of your family crest, burned into the chest plate with gold powder and resin. It's a hawk in flight, wings curved like blades. Your great-grandfather wore this same symbol into the siege at Odani Castle. Some say he died with a grin on his face. Some say the grin was carved there by a spear tip. Either way, the armor returned. His spirit, many believe, still lingers in the lacquer. So you polish carefully, respectfully. You don't rush this part. A dragonfly lands on your shin guard, watching with unblinking eyes. You don't shoo it away. Every spot of grime you erase is a message. I see you. I remember. I still carry you. And here's the fringe tidbit for tonight. Certain samurai households kept one retired suit of armor inside their home. Not for show, but as a guardian. Placed upright in a shadowed corner of the tatami room, it was treated like a living elder. Offerings of incense, occasional robes draped over it, children taught to bow before passing, a silent ancestor made of iron and will. You dump the cloth again, squeeze it tighter, and move on to the thigh plates. A smudge of dried, something resists your scrubbing. Mud? Blood? You don't ask. You just clean. Nearby, an older samurai does the same, humming quietly. His armor is older than yours, duller in color, more scars along the lacquer, but spotless, revered. You exchange nods. No words needed. You're both doing the same thing. Not just getting ready to fight, but asking permission to be worthy of it. Your own master once told you, armor never lies. It tells how you care, how you fight, how you fear. He wasn't talking about dents and damage. He meant what's in your head. If you're too nervous to clean it, too rushed to polish, too proud to tend to every strap, you're not ready. You're distracted, and that could get you killed faster than an arrow. So you don't skip anything. You oil the joints. You check every cord. You realign the scales on your right sodi so they don't shift when you turn. And all the while, you breathe. It's not meditation, not exactly, but it feels like one. And here's what surprises you. The act of polishing becomes the armor itself. The ritual, the motion, the attention, it becomes a shield for your thoughts. Keeps the panic away. Keeps the doubt from crawling in through the cracks. You whisper again, just before finishing the helmet. Be strong for me today. You know it's ridiculous. Or maybe you don't. In this world, things aren't either sacred or practical. They're they're both. You've seen men cry when their armor breaks. Not because it exposes their skin, but because they believe it signals the loss of their guardian, their guide, their silent protector. Another old warrior once told you, armor remembers better than we do, which is chilling, considering you're about to strap it to your body and march straight into hell. Still, you welcome the memory, the weight, the chill of the metal as it kisses your skin. You slide the helmet over your head. The world becomes narrower, muffled, focused, and just before the light disappears behind the brow of the kabuto, you swear you hear something. Not a voice exactly, more like a hush, a breath of wind, or maybe, just maybe, a thank you. You've just finished tightening the cords on your shin guards when you pause, just for a second, and catch your reflection in the glossy curve of your breastplate. There you are, blurred a little, warped slightly, but still, eyes wide, but steady, mouth pressed into a line that says, I'm fine, even if your stomach's telling a different story. The dawn mist curls around your boots. Somewhere in the distance, a war horn howls once, twice, then silence. You keep staring, and then, with a soft exhale, you whisper your clan's motto to your reflection. 3 short words, carved into your memory like grooves on a whetstone. Words you said before every battle. Words your father said before his last. You're not doing this out of superstition, not entirely. You're doing it because this armor, polished to a mirror sheen, now serves as your reminder. Your confession, your vow. This is who I am. This is what I must do. This is where I end or endure. See that mirror surface on your chest plate? It's not just to blind archers or impress noble onlookers. It's meant for you. Every time you glance down, you see not just a reflection, but a promise you made. You see a face that better be calm, better be ready, because you'll be meeting God soon, whether in victory or death. Historians still argue whether samurai saw their armor reflections as spiritual portals or just practical design. But we know this. Some left written accounts of speaking to their own image before a duel. Not out loud, necessarily, but inwardly, silently, sometimes apologizing, sometimes saying goodbye. You slide your hands down the Dumaru, catching flecks of light. It's clean. It's centered, and it reminds you, no matter what chaos surrounds you, your armor, the surface of it, must be ordered, even if your thoughts are fraying at the edges. And let's talk about those thoughts for a moment, because this is the moment doubt always creeps in. Are you fast enough? Sharp enough? Do you remember how that spear feint works if he shifts left instead of right? You blink hard, then recenter your breathing. 1, 2, 3. Your armor squeaks faintly as your chest expands. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. And your reflection agrees. There's a famous phrase in samurai poetry. A face unseen by others dwells within the iron. Some interpret this to mean the hidden self, the part only the warrior and his armor know. That private version of you, scared or proud or hopeful, peeking out between lacquered plates and layered cotton. Quirky detail for today. Some elite samurai hired artisans to embed subtle, ghost-like faces into the lacquer itself. Tiny brushstroke portraits you could only see in angled light. Personal demons, ancestors, lost brothers, literally watching your back. You think about that as you recheck your kote, pulling the cords taut around your wrists. Everything has to sit just right, because it's not just armor, it's language. A loosened plate near the ribs that says, I'm rushed. A tarnished forearm guard, I don't finish what I start. A dented helmet with no attempt to repair, I survive by accident, not design. You don't want to say any of those things. You want to walk into formation saying, I see myself. I know myself, and I'm not afraid of what I see. As you step toward the camp's edge, ready for today's maneuver, you pass a row of younger samurai. One of them fumbles with his chin strap, then gives up and lets it hang loose. His armor is polished, sure, but unevenly so, bright on one side, dull on the other. He catches your eye. You don't speak. You just hold his gaze and nod once. He swallows, then quietly starts to retie the strap. You've done your job, without drawing a sword. Armor, after all, reflects not just you, but who you want others to be. Cleanliness spreads like courage, like calm, like command. You recall something your grandfather told you once, long ago, when he handed down the family breastplate. The mirror doesn't lie, but it forgives, which is why, when you kneel before battle and look down one last time, you try not to judge what you see. You just breathe and whisper, I'm still here, because in this world, that's enough. For now, your squad gathers at the tree line, armor creaking in unison like a forest of restless branches. The sun has broken through at last, and the beams strike your formation with gold-edged clarity. A hush falls, not because someone called for silence, but because the enemy is in sight. They're across the field, a jagged line of lacquered shadows, moving, watching, and even from here, you can see it. Their armor shines, polished to blinding perfection. Each warrior glimmers like a moving shrine. It's a coordinated display, a visual wall of intimidation. You're not just looking at men with weapons, you're looking at a message. And you've been trained to read that message, same as they've been trained to write it. Clean, composed, unafraid. You hear your captain murmur beside you. Look how bright their sodi are. They want us to think they're invincible. And maybe they are, because when you face a row of warriors gleaming like gods, it messes with your head. Your instincts whisper they're too ready. They're too sharp. They don't bleed. Of course they do. But that's the trick. See, armor isn't just for defense. It's a battlefield performance. A costume that tells a story. If yours is clean and theirs is clean, it's a standoff. If yours is clean and theirs is dirty, you already have the upper hand. But if yours is stained, crooked, rusted, you've lost ground before the first arrow flies. Historians still argue whether armor display in feudal Japan had true tactical value or was mostly psychological. But every veteran will tell you, battles often begin long before weapons are drawn. In fact, some samurai use the art of appearance as a weapon. There's a well-documented case of a famed general sending his top warriors into battle with freshly oiled armor, brand new cords, and ceremonial crests, just to rattle the other side. Is logic? If we look untouched, they will believe we are untouched. And it worked. Because let's face it, fear isn't logical. It's visual. Here's your quirky detail of the night. Some elite warriors went so far as to polish the undersides of their breastplates, sections that would never be seen unless the armor was removed. Not because anyone would check, but because they would know. It was a private flex. Even my unseen parts are worthy of reverence. Now back to you. You shift your stance, lifting your blade slightly, and catch a glimpse of your reflection in the edge. It's faint, but it's there. You're part of the performance now, and you need to look the part. Your chest rises and falls in rhythm. Not panic calibration. Every polished surface on your body is saying, I have done this before. I'm not impressed by your shine. But let's be real. You are impressed. You're impressed by the fact that their front line all has matched sashes, knotted perfectly at the hip, that their helmets bear no dents. that even their sandals seem synchronized. You almost admire them. Almost. But admiration is not the same as submission. You tighten your grip. You remind yourself, they look clean. That doesn't mean they are brave. And yet, there's no denying the effect. A clean opponent throws off your sense of timing. They look untouched, so you hesitate. You aim for where the weakness should be, where the armor's misaligned, where blood has already dried, and it's not there. They seem perfect, and perfection is intimidating. That's why you polished your armor this morning like your life depended on it. Because it might. Because the enemy's eyes are on you now, scanning just as you're scanning them. And if your greaves are muddy or your cords are frayed, they'll see it. And they'll aim for it. Doubt is a crack in the plate. A dirty pauldron is an invitation. A tilted helmet says, go ahead, test me. I probably forgot to tighten my chin strap anyway. You can't afford that. So you breathe, slow and even, as your captain signals advance. The grass crunches underfoot. Your formation moves. Step, step, step. And across the field, the other side moves too, like a reflection. For a fleeting moment, you imagine you're looking into a mirror. They move like you. They glimmer like you. Maybe they evened out like you. But you can't let them see that. So you square your shoulders. You roll them once, making sure your armor plates don't click or shift. Smooth, silent, controlled. You are invincible until you're not. But until then, you let them believe it. Because the enemy notices everything. They notice how your helmet doesn't wobble, how your cuirass sits centered, how your sodi don't sag at the edges. They notice that the crest on your kabuto isn't scratched. They notice that your leggings match. And most importantly, they notice you aren't looking away. That's the final touch. A clean gaze to match clean armor. One that says, I see you, and I'm not impressed. You're kneeling now, not in fear, not in surrender. You're kneeling because that's how rituals begin. Around you, the camp is quiet. Men sit cross-legged, leaning against trees, rocks, or each other, polishing, checking, tightening. The fight hasn't started yet, but everyone knows it's coming. No one talks. Not even the birds bother with their morning songs. Your hands move automatically. One knot, then another. You pull the silk cords tied across your torso, adjusting the layering of your kusazuri so the panels fall evenly over your thighs. You run your finger across the seam of your sunny eight, the shin guards, inspecting for chips or cracks. You find one, a small nick, and file it smooth with the edge of your tanto. It's not vanity. It's not superstition. It's ritual. You've done this so many times it's a part of your muscle memory now, like drawing your sword or writing your name. Each motion says, I am alive. I am present. I am in control. There's comfort in repetition, and even more comfort in order. Because when the world is about to erupt into chaos, your armor is the one thing you can control. It's a world made of plates and cords and discipline. And as long as you obey its structure, it will protect you. This moment is not about shining. It's about shaping your mind. You remember your mentor's words. The armor is your tea ceremony. Respect it like you respect the cup. That may sound poetic, but it's dead serious. Because the same precision that pours tea without spilling is the same calm that guides a blade without shaking. The tea ceremony, after all, isn't about the tea. It's about the discipline behind it. Just like this. You reach for your kabuto and place it beside you with two hands, fingers aligned. You gently unroll a cloth and begin to wipe the crest. Not quickly, not aggressively, but with reverence. And here's the thing. You're not cleaning for anyone now. Not for your commander or your unit or even for the enemy. You're doing it for you. Because the ritual of cleaning, of tending to your armor like a sacred object, centers your thoughts. It filters out fear. It reminds you that even when blood is rushing through your ears and your heart won't slow down, you are still in control of how you prepare. Historians still argue whether this obsessive care was born from necessity or evolved into spiritual practice. The answer is probably both. But by the time you're done with your armor each morning, you feel less like prey and more like a priest. Every adjustment, every white plate is like a sutra. Every breath, part of the offering. Quirky tradition for tonight. In some schools of martial practice, warriors would recite short verses, kuji-in, as they polished each section of their armor. A sort of armor meditation. Not prayers exactly, more like affirmations, strength, stillness, clarity, compassion, resolve. Not all followed this, but those who did, they claimed they never panicked in battle. You tuck a small charm, a folded slip of paper inscribed by a temple priest, into the lining near your ribs. It's been there for months. You've changed your socks more often than you've changed this charm. It doesn't matter. It's part of the routine. It stays. You think of the word kata form. In swordsmanship, kata is everything. The repetition of movement until it becomes truth. Your armor ritual is a kata, too. It's the form of focus, the shape of stillness. You check your chest plate one last time, fingers trailing the edge of the lacquered border. Smooth, cool, satisfying, like stone warmed by sunlight. You nod once. Time to stand. And here's what's strange. By this point, you don't even need to believe the armor has power. You've given it power by treating it as though it does. You've poured your time, your touch, your discipline into it. It protects you not just because of what it's made of, but because of what you've made of yourself by wearing it well. You glance around the clearing. Others are finishing their rituals too. A man braids his hair, just so, tucks it beneath his helmet. Another carefully reties his sash 3 times until the crest falls at the exact right angle. A third wipes dirt from his sandals with a leaf. These are not random habits. These are anchors. In a world about to unhinge itself with a screaming clash of blades, these small, controlled actions hold your spirit in place. Ritual doesn't make you fearless. It makes you ready. And readiness here is everything. Because once that horn sounds again and the charge begins and the dust kicks up and the sun glares off 1,000 blades, you won't have time to think. You won't be able to check your greaves or adjust your cords. That moment is coming fast. And when it does, your mind won't be clean. Your thoughts won't be polished. But your armor will be. And that's what you'll trust. You sit still now. Not from fear, not from fatigue, but because the wind has quieted. The last wind, maybe, in the clearing before you. Your second glides a blade along the edge of a stone, sharpening your katana. Each pass sings a soft metallic note, the sound like a final lullaby before thunder breaks. You've tied every knot twice. Your armor gleams, every plate smooth and dark as a raven's wing in moonlight. The sodi at your shoulders are fixed tight, cords pulled flush to your underrobe. The dew over your chest fits as snugly as breath. You're ready, but there's still one thing left to do. You reach for a small, folded cloth. Open it. Inside, a tiny clay pot of lacquer paste. Not the kind for utility. This is ceremonial, rich, glossy, made to give one final shine. Because today, you suspect, is the last time you'll wear this armor. Whether by victory or by death, something ends here. So you begin the final polish. Your strokes are slow now, reverent. You're no longer wiping away dirt. You're leaving behind your signature, your intention. You're saying, This is how I choose to meet the world. Because if you fall today, if your body is found and your head removed for tallying, someone will see the armor first, and they'll see it clean. That's a message. It says you were composed, that you didn't flinch, that you faced the blade with dignity and control, that you were samurai. Historians still argue whether this final cleaning before battle was widespread or romanticized in later centuries. But stories from the Sengoku era abound of warriors kneeling in solitude, polishing armor moments before duels, some even dying with the cloth still in hand. You buff the breastplate in small, slow circles. The surface brightens until it catches the world around you. Trees, sky, clouds. You lean forward until your own reflection looks back. There you are again. That same face. But something's different. Now it's calm. You study your own eyes and recite your clan's motto one final time. Not as a ritual, but as a farewell. I will rise unshaken. The wind stirs once more. Not loud, just enough to lift a corner of the cloth you laid out your tools on. You finish the polish. Fold the cloth slowly. Tuck it beneath your belt. Nearby, your second sheathes your sword and bows. It's time. You rise. Your armor creaks like an old door opening to fate. It fits you perfectly now. Not because the armor changed, but because you did. You grew into it. You earned it. As you walk toward the clearing, the men part to let you through. Some bow. Others lower their eyes. No one speaks. And why would they? You've already said everything worth saying. In the gleam. In the silence. In the way you took time, even now, to clean. Because that's what samurai do. You take care of what protects you. You keep order in a world of chaos. You polish not just for war, but for memory. You leave no stains behind. And even if this is your last breath, the message will remain long after you're gone. This was a warrior who cared, who respected, who prepared, who looked death in the face and paused to shine his own reflection, just once more. Now lean back for a moment. Let the rhythm of that final scene slow your breath. You're no longer kneeling beside a battlefield river or tightening your cords by firelight. You're safe, wrapped in quiet now, your armor set aside, your heart finally still. Inhale and exhale. Let your thoughts settle like dust on lacquer, softly, silently, undisturbed. The campfires have gone out. The swords have found their sheaths. Somewhere in the trees, a breeze rustles the leaves like paper pages flipping shut. You've heard the story. You've followed every quiet ritual. You've stood at the edge of fear and polished your way through it. And maybe, just maybe, that calm has followed you into this moment. Because the truth is, samurai cleaned their armor not just to survive the battle, but to survive themselves. To bring clarity where there was confusion, stillness where there was panic, order where there was nothing but noise. And so tonight, as you lie in your bed, soft blankets instead of lacquered plates, silence instead of war drums, remember this. You don't need a sword to be brave. You don't need armor to prepare. You only need the quiet intention to care for what matters. So rest now, warrior of the quiet. You've done enough polishing for one night. Close your eyes. Let the mirror darken. Let sleep begin.